You know what? No need to rant on camera. Yeah, so there goes the Horcrux. It's been acting up all day. Feeling loads better. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. We are inching closer and closer to the Secrets of Dumbledore coming out this April. I have had such a great time going through my favorite film franchise of all time, but now we've reached the epic finale. So epic that the source material had to be split up into 2 movies, which loads of other movie studios caught wind of in the early 2010s, and they saw financial opportunities aplenty. I'm sure a lot of executives were sitting there like, ugh. And this started a trend throughout that whole entire decade, with movies like Mockingjay and Breaking Dawn coming to mind as being split up into 2. But here's the thing. With a franchise like Harry Potter, with Deathly Hallows being as epic of a finale as it was and would become on the big screen, this deserves to be split up into 2 movies. Even though you're kinda setting yourself up for a cliffhanger going into a movie with Part 1 as your subtitle, and this movie definitely has one of those, it still made buttloads of money at the box office regardless. I remember seeing this movie opening weekend myself along with my brother and my grandma, and we got some of the last tickets available for that specific showing, and this was before assigned seating in theaters that we're used to these days. So the seats we found were front row, bottom corner of the theater, so we were looking up at the big screen like this the whole time. But you know what? I didn't care, because I was in the theater, I was watching a part of a Harry Potter finale. It was a movie that meant so much to me. And it's still 2 parts, both of them. They're still movies that hit so close to me. And even though this is just part 1, you're still gonna get loads of exciting sequences throughout this movie. Now, admittedly, I do tend to watch this and part 2 back to back as a gigantic 4-hour plus extravaganza, but just standing alone by itself, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 still has loads about it that works. Namely this opening sequence, which I can honestly sit here and argue is the best among all the Harry Potter films, if I'm being completely honest with you. How does nobody ever talk about what Hermione goes through towards the beginning of this film? She is wiping her parents' memory of her clean to protect them, and that's one of the most heartbreaking scenes you will ever see, and nobody ever talks about it. There's minimal dialogue, a phenomenal score by Alexander Desplat, and a truly moving performance from Emma Watson, as would be the case throughout the rest of this film for all of our leads. Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, they're all great. Now, Ralph Fiennes in this movie as Voldemort, here and in part 2, so entertaining. And you can't help but laugh at how larger than life he is, but you still can't help but be scared of that slithery, raspy tone of voice that he's chosen. The dinner scene he has with his comrades at Malfoy Manor is very unsettling. He's demanding someone else's wand to kill Harry Potter. And this is, of course, all a setup for Voldemort on the power-starved hunt for the Elder Wand, the most invincible wand in the world. Now, this opening is definitely my favorite of this whole franchise. The only thing missing from it, I think, would be the handshake that Harry and Dudley share in the novel. I could be wrong, but I believe this handshake is a deleted scene on film, but I can't sit here and judge it based on that because it's not in the final cut. It's deleted. But that's something I wish they would have kept in the final cut. Mainly because, especially in the earlier entries, that Harry-Dursley relationship is so vital to Harry's development as a character. And I think Dudley extending that olive branch really adds a lot of closure to that relationship itself. But this all, of course, leads to an incredible chase sequence in the air with Harry riding shotgun on Hagrid's motorcycle, alongside 7 Potters, 6 of Harry's friends disguising themselves as Harry to trick the Death Eaters in the air, which gives you some incredible comedic moments for Daniel Radcliffe. Wow, we're identical! This chase sequence, of course, causes George Weasley to lose an ear, which he adds some light to the situation, calling himself saint-like. Mad-Eye Moody and poor Hedwig are killed on the way, though. Seeing as how this is a finale, there will definitely be a lot of beloved characters killed off. But the big meat and potatoes of this film is building off of the ending of Half-Blood Prince, Harry, Ron, and Hermione getting together off of Hogwarts, mind you, off the campus, and they're searching for the remaining Horcruxes to destroy Voldemort once and for all. And this all really adds to the finality of the situation we're in here. These 3 come off so incredibly independent here, because keep in mind, they don't have the help from their professors in this situation. Dumbledore Dumbledore is dead. They're on the run from Snatchers for quite a good amount of time here, and Voldemort and the Death Eaters have infiltrated the government, the Ministry of Magic itself. So now more than ever, they are incredibly alone here, but their teamwork, incredibly inspiring. And that's even after Harry and Ron get into this big argument centered around jealousy and lack of instruction about how to destroy these things, which is a powerful moment in its own right with lines like this.
Think I'm not listening too? You think I don't know how this feels?
Oh, you don't know how it feels! Your parents are dead! You have no family!
God, that gets me. Every time I watch this scene, it always makes me feel queasy just seeing these two go at it. And then Hermione sitting there in the middle trying to make peace. But of course, Ron abandons the two for a while. Harry and Hermione are left to fend for themselves, searching for these Horcruxes, trying to destroy them any way they can. But this, in turn, gives you two of my favorite scenes throughout the entire franchise. The first one isn't even in the original novel, Harry and Hermione dancing. A lot of this movie feels so incredibly hopeless, but this comes off not like a romance, but Harry trying to cheer Hermione up after so much drama involving Ron, before they go right back into the swing of things and the somber tone throughout this entire film. Which, speaking of, let's talk about this sequence in Godric's Hollow. Harry walking through that whole neighborhood where he was born, seeing the spot where his parents were murdered, and visiting the gravesite itself. God, it just... man, it gets you. Again, this all really feels like a lot of closure being brought to these characters, with Harry visiting the place where this all began. Not to mention, David Yates' direction is breathtaking here, with some immaculate cinematography and lighting to set the Christmassy tone in there. Christmas is supposed to be a cheerful time, but this is a very somber, depressing moment in a movie filled with them. Now, when Harry and Hermione escape a very terrifying snake attack, which comes off like a horror movie, very intense sequence, Harry does find the Sword of Gryffindor, which can destroy the Locket Horcrux they've been carrying around this whole time. And Harry is being choked by the Locket as he goes under the lake to retrieve the sword, and of course, he is rescued by a returning Ron Weasley himself, which... even on a rewatch, they sort of explain how Ron made his way back to Harry and Hermione, but... I don't know. I mean, it comes off very forced, you know what I mean? In context, it does feel very exposition dumpy after Ron comes back and he expresses all of his feelings for Hermione right out there in the open. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on it too long, but speaking of exposition dumpy, the trio go to visit Luna Lovegood's father, the editor of the Quibbler magazine, to talk about this symbol right here that he was wearing. And this, of course, would be the symbol for the Deathly Hallows. And there's a whole big exposition background dump sequence about this old fairy tale from their childhoods. And it's explained that these three mythical items are the Elder Wand, which I mentioned earlier, the Resurrection Stone, the Invisibility Cloak, and together they make up the Deathly Hallows. Ta-da! Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. But it turns out that this editor is completely distraught because his daughter Luna has been kidnapped by Death Eaters, and he wants to trade Luna back and give them Harry in return. And he reveals that Death Eaters have been standing by the entire time, which leads to an incredible chase sequence through a forest. And there's a lot of really amazing behind-the-scenes stories about Radcliffe, Grint, and Watson racing each other. Of course, the trio ends up getting captured, where Bellatrix Lestrange, Helena Bonham Carter, at her most deranged, tortures Hermione for information. God, it's just so unsettling how she carves that derogatory muggle slur into Hermione's forearm, and Emma Watson screaming bloody murder. And she's being tortured about an alleged break-in to Bellatrix's Gringotts bank vault. Stay tuned for the beginning of part 2. We do get kind of a Deus Ex Machina here, with Dobby the house elf coming in to apparate our captives out of the underground lair that they're being kept in. So Dobby rescues our heroes, and Bellatrix fucking kills him. You want to talk about emotional, gut-wrenching tearjerker scenes in cinema? This takes the cake right here. His final words in Harry's arms, like, god damn, it gets me every single time, guys. But we can't dwell on Dobby's death for too long, as emotional as it is, because as Harry is burying his fallen comrade, Voldemort goes to a different tomb, that of Dumbledore himself, and he pries the Elder Wand right out of Dumbledore's cold, dead fingers, grave-robbing at its most opportune moment. Voldemort casts a lightning bolt spell into the sky with the Elder Wand. Cliffhanger. Filmmakers were like, roll credits, we'll see you next July. And me as the kid sitting there in the corner of that theater was like, more now. See, nowadays in 2022, you could pop in part 2 right after you're finished with part 1. And like I said, you could make it a 4-hour extravaganza like I usually do. But back in November 2010, you had to wait. And even though I knew what happened, it was torture waiting for it. And even though this movie does have a couple of gargantuan exposition dumps, along with a predictable yet captivating cliffhanger, this is still a very, very strong outing in the Harry Potter film franchise. I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 an A-. But of course, we're not done yet, my friends. Stay tuned next week for the final installment in the main Harry Potter franchise when we review Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Stay tuned for that and much, much more. And let me know down in the comments while you're at it what you thought of Deathly Hallows Part 1. And which character's death got you the most emotionally. Because as always, I love discussing all brand new things, cinema, entertainment, all things Harry Potter here on the regular. So if you guys are new to the channel, do consider smashing that subscribe button along with that notification bell right next to it. That way you guys can stay in the loop anytime there's a new upload over here. We are also getting so very close to 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully you guys can help me reach that number very, very soon. If you guys can help me reach that number, I will be putting out a very, very special video as a thank you to all of you. And guys, while you're at it, smash that thumbs up button as well, which is always incredibly helpful. And as I said, next week I will be uploading my review for Deathly Hallows Part 2. In addition to all of these other new releases hitting theaters, we have the Batman coming out next Friday. God, I can't wait to talk about that, guys. But y'all are the best. Thank you all again for your support. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.